evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Equine Essentials. I'm your host, Gray Parks, Equine Sales Specialist for ProTrition Feeds. And tonight I wanted to give you an overview of our Pinnacle line of horse feeds. We haven't done this in a while on an Equine Essentials episode, so I thought this would be a good time to go over what we have to offer in this line of premium co-op horse feeds for you, and remind you maybe of some products you haven't thought about in a while. So I wanted to start off before I get into individual products, talking about why you should buy co-op feeds in the first place. So here are just some of the top reasons why co-op feeds in particular, and I'll get to Pinnacle specifically in a moment, might be right for you. One, these are local products made by local people at local facilities. This has been a big consumer desire for quite a while in a lot of areas, and horse feed is no different. We make these products currently at 3 locations in Jackson, Laverne, and Rockford, Tennessee. So very much in your back door by people who live and work right where you do. Our feed mills and our company have been in existence for over 75 years, and these mills have won multiple awards from the American Feed Industry Association. We also use very strict quality control protocols for testing ingredients as they come in for both safety and nutritional quality, and then checking our feeds periodically to make sure they are meeting what we expect from a co-op horse feed. Our Pinnacle line is our premium line of co-op horse feeds. So if you're unfamiliar with Pinnacle, here are some of the features that are common across all of our Pinnacle products. They all contain digestible fiber and balanced energy sources. So energy coming from multiple types of nutrition. So from fiber, from sugar and starch where appropriate, and from fat that's added to these feeds. All of these products contain fat that has been added, and they also all contain, as one of those fat sources, flaxseed to improve the omega-3 fatty acid content of those particular products. We also use increased levels of lysine and methionine, which are 2 amino acids that are commonly deficient in grains. So when we take whole grains and make them into a horse feed, we want to make sure we're improving the amount of lysine and methionine that's generally quite low in those ingredients. In our Pinnacle line of horse feeds, we also use organic trace minerals, Zinpro trace minerals, and selenium yeast. And the reason we use organic sources of minerals in these products are because organic or chelated minerals are more bioavailable for the horse, which means that they are more likely to be digested and utilized by the animal than inorganic sources. So an organic trace mineral, again, selenium yeast first would be the selenium version. The inorganic version would be sodium selenite. And then for our other trace minerals, you would see things like copper amino acid complex instead of copper sulfate. So those are just kind of what you can look at on a feed tag to see whether you're getting these organic trace minerals in your feed or not. Our Pinnacle line of feeds also contain pre and probiotics to improve the horse's digestive efficiency and allow them to better utilize the ingredients we're putting in their feed. And they all contain antioxidants, including added vitamin E to improve the horse's exercise response and recovery and immune function, because vitamin E is very important for those functions, and you can easily deplete it if you're not providing it in the diet as well. So what are our Pinnacle lines of horse feeds? Well, I've broken them down into very loosely the types of horses that are most likely to eat a particular feed. By far the most common type of horse that I see out there in the world are our easy keepers. So horses that don't eat a lot of calories, and or horses that have metabolic disorders. Both of these types of horses tend to do well on relatively low calorie, relatively low starch feeds. So if they're very easy keepers, then our Pinnacle Balancer is the feed for them. Pinnacle Balancer is designed to provide all of the horse's vitamin, mineral, and amino acid needs in a 1 to 2 pound per day serving for an average size horse. So if you have a horse that will get fat on more than 2 pounds of feed, but you want to make sure you're providing that horse all of the nutrition that it needs to perform and be healthy, then Balancer is the product that you want to go for with that horse. Because if you feed him only 2 pounds of another feed, then you're shortchanging him on nutrition in the interest of trying to conserve calories. So not a really efficient way. A lot of people I find will be out there feeding a regular feed of some sort, either a very expensive, very high quality feed, or even say a very low quality, less expensive feed, and then adding a vitamin supplement, adding an amino acid supplement, adding flaxseed, and all of those things together add up to cost more and be less balanced than just using a quality ration balancer, like the Pinnacle Balancer would be. So makes your life a little easier and usually actually works out more cost effective than the other options. There are horses that are relatively easy keepers, but not that easy, or that have metabolic issues, but still need to eat more than 2 pounds of feed a day to maintain their condition. And for those types of horses, a feed like Pinnacle Low Starch is the way that you would want to go. A low starch and sugar pelleted feed at 12% protein and 6% fat. It's balanced and would be appropriate for a wide variety of horses, as long as they are over the age of 2. It could be a feed that would work for that particular horse. There may be horses that require a little bit more calorie support than the low starch horses, or that don't have metabolic issues, so you're not concerned about sugar and starch, but want a basic maintenance type of ration. And for those horses, we have our Pinnacle 1000 and Pinnacle 1200 as options. So textured 10 and 12% protein respectively feeds. The 1000 is what I would consider a traditional sweet feed at 35% sugar and starch combined. The 1200 is more moderate in its starch level, relatively low for a textured, lower fat maintenance type of diet. So it can work for a wide variety of animals. And then again, if the horse is in light work, balancer and low starch can still be very appropriate feeds depending on that horse's specific requirements for calories, sugar, and starch. What about horses that are performance horses? So horses that are getting ridden regularly. They may be show horses, they may be trail horses that work a little more intensively than average. For those horses, we have 3 products that I would kind of put my finger on as being really, really good for those types of horses. The first is our Pinnacle 1200 high fat. So if you have performance horses and prefer a textured feed, this is the way that I would go with those types of horses. At 12% protein and 10% fat, again, appropriate for a wide variety of horses. It's on the kind of low to moderate side for sugar and starch. So it can work for horses that need a reduced but not super low starch diet, and horses that do require a little bit of sugar and starch to have enough energy to do their jobs. So it kind of fits a wide spectrum of horses. I also personally think this is probably the most visually attractive feed that we make in all of our co-op horse feeds. Really pretty feed, really palatable feed. So if you have picky horses that are hard to get them to eat, this is definitely my go-to product for those animals. And then we have one of our standards that's been around for a long, long time under a few different names, our Pinnacle 1400, which is kind of an all ages, all stages, 14% protein pellet. Again, on the moderate side of starch, so it can work for a lot of groups of horses, especially if you're wanting to feed growing horses, brood mares, performance horses, all one thing that you can give everybody, then the 1400 is a great way to go. We also, as of about a year and a half ago now, have kind of an upgraded version of 1400 called 1400 Plus that is a higher fat, lower starch version. So higher calories, a tremendous amount of flaxseed. It is the #1 ingredient in this feed. So it will put a beautiful coat on just about any horse. And again, a lower starch option if that's something that you have horses who need, or say brood mares and growing horses that are harder to keep weight on, but where you're concerned about starch levels, then the 1400 Plus can be a really good option for those horses as well. What about the old guys? So our Pinnacle Senior Horse is a fantastic senior horse feed. I have seen some dramatic turnarounds, even one very, very recently with our Pinnacle Senior. This is a low starch, added fat senior horse feed, specifically designed to be easy to chew and soak. So it soaks up great. As we know, most older horses at some point develop dental issues where they chew less efficiently or start to have problems chewing at all. Because this is designed for those types of horses, it can be fed as a complete feed, meaning if they get to the point they can't chew hay at all, this feed will be appropriate as a total diet for those horses. Not all senior horses need a senior feed though. So if your horse is still fat and sassy and doing well and eating hay and pasture, then Balancer may be all that horse needs, even well into its 20s. If you have a very, very hard keeping senior horse that can still eat hay, then the 1400 plus is a good option. So higher calorie feed for that horse. Or you may have a hard keeping horse with dental issues where a combination of the 1400 plus and the senior might be the way to go. And for those types of horses, I'm always happy to help you kind of work the math and figure out exactly how much of which you want to feed for that horse. For breeding and growing horses, our mare and foal is a fantastic product. For a textured growth feed, it is quite low in sugar and starch, a lot lower than you would probably assume from looking at this feed. It is very palatable, so great for starting young horses on eating a feed, and for those brood mares in late gestation that get really full and really picky and don't want to eat but still need the nutrition and calories, then this is a great feed. If you prefer a pelleted option, then the 1400 is also appropriate for growing horses and brood mares. If you have really, really easy keeping brood mares or really easy keeping growing horses and you're concerned about them being too fat, and then the Balancer can be an appropriate product for those horses as well. It would be unusual for a lactating mare to be fat enough to need to be on a Balancer diet, but it does happen sometimes. So if you have those kinds of horses, you'll notice there's not a feeding rate for Balancer for those classes on the tag, but I can help you work that out and figure out exactly how much you need for your particular situation. And then again, you may have some very hard keeping lactating mares or very hard keeping growing horses where 1400 plus could also be appropriate for those horses. We are a feed company. We are not a supplement company, but we do make some supplements as well. So I wanted to briefly touch on those in case you have horses for whom they might be appropriate. My favorite among our supplements is our Pinnacle Gastrotec, which is a research-proven gastric buffer product for ulcer-prone horses. And I say ulcer-prone horses kind of jokingly because every horse is an ulcer-prone horse when it comes right down to it. Gastrotec is designed to be top-dressed and fed twice a day with grain, specifically to help reduce that acid spike that you typically get during a grain meal. Really great product, very cost effective for a buffer product and palatable for the horses as well. We also have our Energy Plus pelleted rice bran that has added vitamin E as an antioxidant. The Energy Plus is an excellent option if you have really hard keepers who you're already feeding the maximum amount of grain that you're comfortable feeding, and they look great, but just need a little extra bloom or a little extra condition. Or maybe you have a barn full of horses and most of them look great on Balancer, but one or two could use a little extra weight. Then Energy Plus is a way to add calories to those horses' rations. It can also be top dressed just to improve bloom and shine at a lower feeding rate than it would be for weight. And then we do make a loose horse mineral that is a no added iron mineral for those who are specifically needing a mineral that does not contribute additional iron into the horse's diet. That product can be a really good choice. A traditional horse mineral block and also a horse mineral and protein supplement block. So whatever your feeding practices, whatever your horse's needs, we think we have a line in our Pinnacle products that can do that. If you have additional requirements or specific needs that we can't exactly match into our Pinnacle line, thanks to our ProTrition family, we also have a full line of Purina and Triple Crown products available for you. If I had tried to go through all of those, we would be here for a couple of hours rather than 20 minutes. So tonight, specifically, we're talking the Pinnacle line of feeds. But if you have questions about any of our products or any situation that you don't really know what exactly that horse should be eating, you're always welcome to reach out to me at gray.parks@protritionfeed.com. And I'm watching with you for this video, so feel free to drop simpler, shorter questions in the comments as well, and I will try to answer those for you tonight. Thanks for joining me for another Equine Essentials. I hope to see you all again next month.